Well, good evening to everybody. We really appreciate y'all all coming out. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tom Warren too. I am publisher of the Amarillo Pioneer newspaper. And we really appreciate y'all coming and taking the opportunity to view all of the candidates and see all of their points of view on things like that, and to ask some questions. So this should be really great and informative. We've got a lot of great people here. We've got all the parties are pretty well represented here. And so we encourage everyone to take a few minutes, if you haven't done it previously, to check out all of the candidates' items that are in the foyer. I guess we should begin this, if you don't mind, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would y'all like to do the pledge to the Texas flag, if you don't mind? I pledge, honor the Texas flag. I pledge of allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Sorry about that. I feel ashamed. We should all remember that. So, Thomas, I would like to introduce at this time Thomas Warren. He's the editor of the Amarillo Pioneer. He is going to go ahead and he's going to lead us in an invocation, and then we will go through a list of people that we'd like to thank. So,
all right. So please bow if you'd like to, and let's do a prayer. Lord, thank you for letting us all be able to get together here today, and thank you for the many opportunities you've given us in order to be able to have this great event. We ask that you just please be with everybody, those who couldn't be here today and those who are here. And just please let us be informed, and please let us come together and put our political differences aside to make sure that we move our community forward. Just please be with us and please help us. In your name I pray. Amen.
okay, and before we get started, we will have a young gentleman going around, and he will be giving out cards. If you have any questions, if you will raise your hand, his name is Noah Dawson. He would be happy to give you a card. He's this gentleman over here in the brown. And that way you can write those on the card. He'll pick them back up, and we will be going in ballot order. Everybody will get 3 minutes to go ahead and introduce themselves and tell any kind of point. You don't have to use your 3 minutes. Somebody asked the other day if they could sing and dance. And 1 minute for unopposed candidates, just to introduce yourself. So if you want to sing and dance, that's cool. But anyways, Noah will pick them up, and then we'll go in ballot order for that. We also have a list of people that we would like to thank. First off, we would like to thank the Hanson Post here and Josh Tillerson for making this available. They contacted us and said that we could have the opportunity to use their facility here. So it's a great place. Special thanks to them. We would like to thank Danny South and the Amarillo Tea Party, Dusty Rains of Captive Image, Riken Media, Jerry Glover for helping put some contacts together, Terry Harmon, Steve Land, and especially all of the candidates. Everybody that made the trip over here, no matter how close it was or how far away or anything like that. If you drove in, we greatly appreciate it. If you're representing a party or a precinct or something like that, we greatly appreciate it. If you're just representing yourselves, we greatly appreciate it, because without all of you guys coming, there would be no way for us to go ahead and exercise democracy. We'd like to thank all of our advertisers, and we'd like to thank our readers and the Amarillo voters, and most especially this gentleman right here beside me, Thomas Warren, that is the editor of the Amarillo Pioneer. He's the heart and soul of the newspaper, and he's done a great job. So we'll have two moderators this evening. One of those is Thomas Warren, T3 as we call him, and Michael Green. So thank you very much, and I'll turn you over to Thomas Warren. Thank you.
Thank you much. So the way this is going to work is, he said a little bit, 3 minutes for the opposed candidates, 1 minute for the unopposed candidates. If you have a question during anyone's speech, just raise your hand. Noah will get you a card. He'll stand there with you, make sure, get it filled out, and bring it up here. And so we're going to go through all the introductions. After the introductions, we'll do the questions. And Michael Green, he runs a tight ship, so be ready for some tough questions. What's your favorite song and dance, things like that. But we're going to have a good time, and so let's go ahead and let's start with the top of the ballot, which is the race for the United States Senate. And I think we have one of our candidates here, Mr. Dikeman, so we'll turn it over to him.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. So Thomas was actually the very first person to write an article on me right after, within hours, I think, of our convention doing the nomination. So that was one of the reasons I drove all the way up from here in Houston. So thank you very much for all the work you guys doing. Besides, I haven't been to Amarillo in a while, and it's fun to come back. My name is Neal Dikeman. I'm the Libertarian nominee for the United States Senate. I'm 42 years old. I'm a sixth-generation Texan, and I founded 7 companies. And I could just spend this year at home working on my businesses and playing with my 3-year-old and 5-year-old. But they're why I'm here. They're my cause. Guys, after the last election cycle, like a lot of y'all, I was not comfortable with the way the world was moving. I was not comfortable that elected officials continued to simply kick the can down the road to my 5-year-old. She doesn't understand what the U.S. Senate is, but she doesn't deserve this. She deserves a world that's a better place than where I grew up. She deserves a world where our debts aren't reaching World War II levels and headed to the stratosphere. She deserves a world where health care is not tied to your job, where a little girl has every single opportunity in life, no matter who she is or where she came from. She deserves a world where she can grow up here in Texas and not have to be, to worry about what's happening in Washington or somewhere in far-off lands. She deserves a world where she does not have to grow up and spend her entire life where our country is always at war. This is why I'm running. This is why I'm here. My vision of the world is a libertarian vision of the world. Libertarian values cut across party lines. We pull from the right, we pull from the left. I know that. I literally get asked to drop out of the race, and have been by both campaigns and by people, voters from each side, every day, vitriolic, nasty, brutal comments asking me to drop out of the race because, well, I'm taking votes from their candidate. Guys, it's not their votes, it's yours. It's always been yours, and it will always be yours. And if you think the two-party system is functioning the way you want it to, ask yourself this: why in 2018, 1 out of 4 of every race in Texas only has one choice? That's not the way the world's supposed to work. And my 5-year-old doesn't deserve that decades down the road, and you don't deserve that now. If it weren't for the Libertarian Party, that stat would be 1 out of 3. We can change this, but the people who are going to change it are sitting right here. I'm just your voice. I'm the message. For 200 years, third parties' role in American politics has been to make the main parties listen, force change, bring issues to the forefront, and run them out of business if they don't listen to you. So this year, I want you to stack rank all our policies, all mine, all my competitors, and I want you to decide, inside that voting booth, with God and your conscience and no one else, and I don't want you to tell me or anyone else which one of us you think you have the most in common with, and that's who you vote for. And then you don't tell them when you walk out, because it's not their business. It's your business, and it's always been your business. I'm Neal Dikeman, and I'm running for the United States Senate. I'm the Libertarian nominee in 2018. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any representatives here to speak for either of the other campaigns? Okay, I know that we have volunteers with the literature out there, so we have that. So I guess we'll move on to the next race, which is for the United States House of Representatives for District 13. We have one of the candidates here with us today, so please welcome Greg Sagan.
Mr. Warren, Mr. Green, thank you very much. I hope my 3 minutes didn't start until I got up here. I walked from the back. Good evening to all of you. Thanks for coming. As someone said, this is how we exercise democracy, and I really appreciate your coming out to take an interest in who's running on your behalf. My name is Greg Sagan. I'm a product of Amarillo. My father was in the Air Force, came down here in 1960 from Rapid City, South Dakota. My family's been here ever since. I graduated from Tascosa High School, went to Amarillo College, got my bachelor's degree in political science at what was then West Texas State University. I enlisted in the Naval Reserve in 1965, just short of my 18th birthday, knowing full well I was going to wind up in Vietnam. And that was okay with me because I really thought we had a reason to be there. When I graduated from college, I was immediately commissioned as an ensign, went off to San Diego, was on the commissioning crew of an amphibious landing ship, made 3 trips to Vietnam, spent 2 years on an admiral staff in the Philippines, and then left the Navy, and went off and did a few other things. Went back to graduate school and got an MBA from the University of Colorado, went to work for a year and found out that I had been accepted into the PhD program at the University of Texas to major in industrial relations with minors in labor economics and statistics. During the 2 years I was in graduate school in Austin, my father was dying of cancer. So when I finished my coursework, I was pretty much empty and flat and fatigued, and I went back on active duty with the Navy and became an internal consultant to flag officers on human resource and leadership issues. I did that work for 4 years, left the Navy as lieutenant commander in 1984, went to work for a consulting firm in Los Angeles, and spent the next few years of my life traveling around the country doing corporate culture consulting and creating high-performance teamwork in companies like New York Life Insurance Company, Showtime Networks, what was then Bell Atlantic, Rocketdyne, who made the space shuttle main engines, and about 20 different nuclear power plants around the country. When I came back here in 1996, I met my wife, who I found out later was the younger sister of a guy I graduated from high school with, and he never introduced us. Yeah, that's the kind of way I feel about him too. We got married and we opened up our own consulting firm here, and we did the same kind of corporate culture consulting here in the Amarillo area. We retired about 4 years ago, and I had no interest in going into politics until November of 2016. And I had seen the way the primary season was going for that election. I saw how the debates and everything went after the 2 nominees emerged, and I did not like what I was hearing, what I was seeing, and I have not liked it ever since. It is my position, ladies and gentlemen, that the Republican Party has failed Americans. In having failed Americans, it has failed America. And one of the reasons I believe this is because I know very well from people all over this district that your representative does not listen to you unless you have money. So I've been going around listening to everybody else, and what I found was that there are about 20 issues in this district that are absolutely stable across all ethnic groups, rural and urban areas, all ages, all interests. And the Republican Party does not speak to any of them. So my name is Greg Sagan, and I'm running for Congress.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sagan. And it's just as a reminder, if you have any questions while the candidate's speaking, you can raise your hand, and Mr. Dawson will get you the note card. So for our next race, let me do this first. Do we have any representatives here to speak for either of the 2 other candidates in that race? Okay, so the next race we'll do then is the race for governor. And we have one of the candidates here with us today. So please welcome Mark Tippetts.
Thank you very much. First off, I'd like to just thank everybody who were involved in putting this together. And I really want to thank the fact that we were invited here. As a Libertarian, you can imagine that we go to events all over the state. The big events that are put on, however, we are nicely asked not to show up, or we're just totally not invited whatsoever. My name is Mark Tippetts, and I am the Libertarian candidate for governor. Just a little bit about my background. I was born in Mexico. I have a law degree and a master's degree from Mexico. I'm an international legal and business consultant. I have lived the international issues, the border issues that Texas faces on a day-to-day basis my entire life. I'm very familiar with the issues. I'm familiar with the immigration issues. I'm familiar with the international trade issues. So that is just kind of my background. Why I am running is because I have 6 children and 7 grandchildren. I have 3 that are still in college now, which I'll be able to manage to pay for that and run a campaign is something else. But and they are always complaining that they don't have choices. The first time 2 of my daughters were of age to vote, they called me from college in tears and said, "Dad, this is not possible, that this is the best that America has to offer." And I asked them, okay, well, what do you want me to do about it? And, well, now you can see what they told me that they wanted me to do about it. But I do believe that the gentleman running for Congress is right. The Republican Party has failed us. But I will take it a step further. The Democrat Party has failed us. Politics in this country has failed us drastically. It is time we have options. Democrats and Republicans are nothing more than 2 sides of the same coin. I don't know who saw the debate the other day, but what both sides were saying, it is just a broken record of what we've been hearing for decades. The Democrats want to dish more money into everything, and the Republicans think that everything on certain levels, everything is just fine, we're doing good, I'm protecting you. And we are stuck in a place of politics, of fear, and anger. We have to stop that. Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created it. We need to get out of that mindset. We need to think out of the box. We need to stop focusing on the problems and focusing down the road on solutions. My name is Mark Tippetts. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And if you have any questions, Mr. Dawson, who has the cards. So do we have any speakers representing either of the other 2 candidates in that race? Okay. So the next race we'll do then is for Lieutenant Governor. And we have one of the candidates here with us tonight. So please welcome Carrie McKinnon.
Thank you. So my name is Carrie McKinnon, and I am the Libertarian on the ticket for Lieutenant Governor. I am a 6th-generation Texan. I was born in Petersburg, where I actually live at present, a town of 1,202 people in Hale County, just south of here, just north of Lubbock. Often, the individuals that are in Austin do not even listen to those of us in the Panhandle. We are a second thought, and sometimes, depending on if you are a senior senator or a senior representative, you might be placed on a committee that matters. The Lieutenant Governor actually sets the calendar, and the Lieutenant Governor appoints those committees. As a Libertarian, I will appoint liberty-minded individuals to those committees. These will be individuals that will focus on property, self, and defense. The right of your property to be yours. To eliminate the property tax in the state of Texas. Because as long as you pay rent to the state in form of property taxes, you never truly own your property. Next, we will talk about self-defense, that you have the right to defend yourself by any means necessary for survival. That can translate to supporting the Second Amendment if that's what you choose, but a constitutional open carry bill being on the floor in the Senate instead of a lieutenant governor who calls a special session and wastes 30+ days on a bathroom bill. When there are other items that need to be passed in the state of Texas for our liberty and our freedom. The next we'll be talking about self, which is talking about you own yourself. The state does not own you. So you can translate that into a way of you're able to consume what you want to. You're able to end your life with dignity. And also translating to the state does not have the right to take your life, ending the death penalty in the state of Texas. I was a U.S. Naval Reservist in the late 90s. I never had the opportunity to do anything other than a weekend warrior, which based on having my right leg caught in an auger when I worked at a gin, did not allow me to do very much of that. When you look at your ballots, I know that all of you are educated voters because you're here tonight. And I know you're going to look at each and every person on there and not just pull the ticket for the Libertarian or the Democratic or the Republican Party. You're going to research each and every single candidate and find out which one stands for your liberty. The individual liberty for all, not an elitist liberty that we have that is bought and paid for in Austin as it is now. So I just want to thank y'all for letting us come tonight. It was a very short drive for me as a statewide candidate. And I am the Libertarian on the ballot for Lieutenant Governor, and I'm Carrie McKinnon. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any representatives for the other candidates? Okay. So the next race is for Attorney General. There are 3 candidates on the ballot in that race, and are any of the candidates here? Okay. So we will go on to, it's the same thing with the Land Commission race, 3 candidates on the ballot in that one. So we'll go on to the race for Agriculture Commissioner. We have one of the candidates here with us today. So please welcome Richard Carpenter.
My name is Richard Carpenter, Libertarian candidate for Agricultural Commissioner. In this race, I get to talk about agricultural issues, which is something I like to do. Our family had a farm for over 100 years, which we lost when I was a teenager.
Hold your mic closer.
You can't hear me? Is that better? We've got an incumbent who is arrogant, conceited, and wants to do things what he wants to do, and he's not following his role as someone who is supposed to support agriculture and our farmers and our ranchers. My plan in this campaign has been to talk about planning for the next generation of Texans. 25 years from now, the population of this state is going to double. Water is already critical and will get worse. The Panhandle will run out of water for its farmers and ranchers. The West Texas, Midland area will have problems. We have to tap into the brackish aquifers of Texas to support agricultural use. If the farmers do not have water, they cannot grow crops. Their land will be worthless. And how are we going to feed your children, your grandchildren, those not yet born? We all want the next generation to have a better life than we have now. But we need to plan for that. I want to tap that rainy day fund of $10 billion, which they would not use when we had 5-6 days of rain down in Houston and got flooded out. They didn't help us in the Houston area where I'm from. What's going to happen when there is no rain up here to replenish the aquifers for the dry land farmers that don't have wells? We need to take $2.2 billion of that and set it aside for agricultural use, water desalination plants and pipelines to ensure that agriculture here in the Panhandle and out in West Texas survives over the next several decades. Our children need that. Your children need that. And those are the issues that we need to look at and get people talking about, because that's going to take a lot of political will, a lot of political capital to put the Panhandle up first, to think about Midland first. You cannot drink oil. You can't eat the metals. The city people will be able to do things by working for those oil companies and manufacturing plants. We have to have a plan to do more for agriculture in the state of Texas. And that's what I'm going around talking about. And my name is Richard Carpenter. I'm the Libertarian candidate for Agricultural Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a representative for either of the other two candidates in that race? Okay. So the next race on the ballot is for Railroad Commissioner. And we have one of those candidates with us today, so please welcome Mike Wright.
First off, I want to thank everybody for coming out, Thomas and Michael for moderating. I'm Mike Wright, and I'm running for Railroad Commission, Libertarian candidate. I think I've got the solution to the water problem. The oil industry generates about 32 billion gallons of water a year. When they produce oil, they produce about 4 gallons of water with that. Now, with desalination, reverse osmosis, and various other techniques, the salt can be taken out so it can be reused for agriculture, for cattle, and also used for fracking, and also cleaned up further and used for human consumption. Those are all areas that are in short need in West Texas, and there's other solutions, but I think that's the best one. The next thing about the Railroad Commission, I spend time studying issues and read most of the minutes. They start at 9:30 once a month, and they finish between 11:25 and 11:35, 2 hours. And they go through a 400-item agenda in 2 hours. I couldn't even read it in 2 hours. And they vote 99% of the time 3-0. I don't know why we pay for 3 commissioners when we're all going to vote the same. And usually one item, it'll be a 2-1 vote. So I'd like to see a little bit more oversight by the commission. A lot of people talk. There's a lot of issues that Railroad Commission is not addressing. Now, financing, the federal government makes low-interest loans, long-term loans for water treatment. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Now, I've got to do some more studying depending on how much salt is in the water, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, it looks like to me it's going to cost about $3 billion, and then it's going to cost some more money to do the pipelines to move this water, because trucking has got to be the most expensive way to do this. But currently, the state takes $5 billion a year from the oil and gas companies in severance tax. The oil and gas industry estimate it's going to cost them $4.4 billion a year over the next 5 years to dispose of this water. So there's a lot of money. The oil companies could make more money, and we can do something about it versus just putting it in injection wells, which the frequency of seismic activity is increasing, and the magnitude of it is also increasing. I mean, we're just compounding a problem. Now, I graduated from West Point. I spent 7 years in the Army, a Vietnam grad, not grad, but veteran. And from there, I went to Harvard Business School. I got a pretty good, sharp mind, and I've got no long-term political ambitions. I'm 71 years old. I'm a one-and-done guy. I'm here to solve a problem. I've got a brochure in the back. Whatever money I raise for my campaign, that's going to be it. If I get anything like most railroad commissioners do, I'll use that to support my travel and so forth. The railroad commissioner, everything else I'm giving back to charity. So I'm not looking to put away a nest egg here. I just want to do a good job. And I was recruited by Neal Dikeman to do this. It's not a lifelong aspiration, but I'm in good health and I've got a good mind and I can serve you if you want it. And like everybody else, I want you to pick the best candidate. If you think I'm better than the other two, vote for me. If they're better, vote for them. I want you to make, but you need to know what we stand for. And I'm interested in you because I'm out here. You're one candidate's 150 miles down the road or so. Couldn't come out. Now, my Democratic opponent, their solution to the problem is we're not going to allow any water for fracking. 95% of the wells out here are fracking operations. So if you want to just close down West Texas, that's the solution. And the Republican candidate, we don't worry about it. It's a problem that needs to be addressed. I'm Mike Wright, and I'm running for Railroad Commission. I hope that you make the right choice come November. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Roman McKennon, the Democratic candidate, was supposed to join us tonight, but he had a last-minute engagement, so we're very sorry about that. So the next race we'll go on to is for Texas Supreme Court, Place 2. We have one of the candidates here with us, so please welcome Stephen Kirkland.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, Amarillo. I am Judge Stephen Kirkland. I am your Democratic nominee for the Texas Supreme Court. And I want to thank you for having this event tonight. You've given me an excuse to come back to Amarillo. It's been a long time since I've been here. And I get to catch up with my cousin Jeanette Randall over here and her husband Fred. So I'm really delighted for the opportunity to be up here. I grew up in Abilene, Texas, which is south of here, but I have grandparents who lived, and my father grew up in Dumas, Texas, which is north of here. So I spent part of my growing up years driving through Amarillo and spending time up here in the High Plains, and I'm really excited to be back on the High Plains. I forget, living in Houston as I do now, how wonderful it is to actually see the sky and to see a horizon that's off in the distance, so I'm happy to be here. I am a balding gay man from Abilene, Texas, who 30 years ago had to learn to love myself enough to come out and sober up. Yes, you heard me. I said it. I'm losing my hair. Seriously, I had to learn to love myself enough to come out and sober up. And I had to do the two of those together in order to be a meaningful part of my community. What I've done with my sobriety is, first, I talk about sobriety a lot. I talk about addiction and recovery from sobriety. I am also formed a low-income housing agency that put over 750 units of affordable housing on the ground in the inner city of the city of Houston. I created Houston's Homeless Recovery Court, which has taken 1,000 people out of our jails, kept them in their shelters, and off of our streets in Houston. And I've served as a judge in Houston for over 13 years now. I am running for the Texas Supreme Court because I believe the courthouse is a place where politics doesn't belong. The current court has been dominated, actually there's been no Democrat or anybody but a Republican on the current court for over 20 years now. And they put out their opinions every Friday, and I usually get up on Saturday morning. I'm enough of a law nerd that I actually read this stuff. And I'm drinking my coffee, reading these opinions, and trying to figure out what it is they've done. And I get so mad because every time I've been reading the opinions over the last year, I couldn't use any of the tools that I learned in law school to understand what they were doing. I couldn't use legal precedent, rules of statutory construction, couldn't even use the Constitution to understand what they were doing. The only way I could understand what they were doing was to remember that there are Republicans trying to avoid a challenge from the extremist wing of the Republican Party. And that tells me they're making political decisions. And they're picking who they want to win and avoiding and debasing the law to get there. That to me is wrong. I don't care what the results are, whether you like the results or not. I think we all know that when judges are making political decisions, everybody loses. There is one document that we hold sacred in our civic arena, and it's the U.S. Constitution. And deeply embedded in every part of the U.S. Constitution is the idea that we as individuals have rights, we have liberty, and the Constitution is set up to protect our liberty. And the other feature that's found in every part of the Constitution is fundamental fairness and equality. And that every one of us is equal before the law. We have a chance for equal protection from the law, we have a chance for equal treatment under the law, and we expect it. And regardless of which community or what part of the state or which primary we vote in, we all look to the Constitution and we all look to the courts to be the upholders and the defenders of those liberties. I pledge to you that if you elect me for your Texas Supreme Court, that's the kind of justice you're going to get. I am Judge Stephen Kirkland. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Well, thank you, Judge Kirkland. So do we have any of the other candidates running for any of the seats on the Supreme Court or Court of Criminal Appeals? Okay. So before we get into the local races, I'll just tell you there was another candidate, Robert Love, who's running for District Attorney in Randall County, who's not able to be with us tonight. And so we wish him well. So the next race we'll do is for State Representative District 86. That's the area that covers Randall County. Before we get into that, I just want to say, they say civility is dead in politics. And I witnessed out there John Smithee and Mike Purcell, both the candidates, having a friendly conversation. And so I think that should show everyone that we can get along besides our political differences. So we'll start with the first candidate. It's the incumbent, John Smithee.
And I do want to acknowledge Mr. Purcell. He's a fine man, and we were talking out front, and we said, we can run a political campaign and discuss issues without getting personal, and we don't have to be angry at each other. And so I think, Mike, if we can do that, we're setting an example for other people too. So anyway, the other thing that I need to do is, and I'm going to pay for this later, I need to acknowledge my wife, Becky, who's here, and I do appreciate her being here. It's been, and I appreciate you, Tom, I appreciate y'all putting this on, and I appreciate all of you all being here. It's been my privilege over the number of years to serve the people of this area in the Texas House of Representatives. It's a privilege that you never take for granted, and it's certainly not an entitlement. And so it's an honor to be able to do what we've been able to do over the years. I want to talk just a second in the time that we've got about kind of what some of my priorities are next session. We've got a real issue, obviously, that we've seen here in the state just recently, particularly over school safety. And I met with a group of superintendents from the area this week talking about the issue. And what we see is it's going to take a systemic approach. It's going to take a multifaceted approach to deal with the issue of school safety. We've got to do a better job of identifying students who may have potential problems, particularly with mental health. We've got to put adequate security in our schools to protect our students. But on the other hand, we don't want to turn our schools into prisons. And so there's a balance that has to be met here, and I'm confident we can make a difference in that area. We're also concerned about school funding. The formula that we have in place right now in Texas is biased against primarily slow growth and rural school districts, which affects almost every school district in our area. And we need to change that. The problem is we've never had the political numbers to make any meaningful difference. The areas that benefit are where all the representatives are from. And so we have a hard challenge trying to make that work. We've got a lot of issues, and we'll probably get into those some in the discussion, but I just want to talk. Our biggest local priority is the establishment of the Texas Tech School of Veterinary Medicine here in Amarillo. This is, I think, one of the biggest things that I've ever had the opportunity to work on. To me, it's critical for the future of this area. We're an agriculture area. We've got young men and women who are involved in agriculture all over this area, and this will provide opportunities for them to be able to do what they enjoy doing and staying in the Texas Panhandle. And so we've got to get the adequate funding to get that school off the ground. We were able to get money in the budget last time as seed money to get it going. The City of Amarillo Economic Development Corporation stepped forward with a big guarantee, and a lot of local people have pledged a lot of money to make this a reality. So that's our number one priority, and we need to get that done. It's a big deal for our area. So anyway, I won't take any more of your time. I'll, of course, be available for questions, and I just want to thank you once again for being here and giving us the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And let's welcome the Democratic candidate, Mike Purcell.
Thank you, T. Democrat, no horns, no tail. I believe I'm a capitalist. I believe we should have secure borders, and I believe that we should have government of the people, for the people, and by the people. All of the people. I'm a lifelong panhandling. I was born in Dalhart. I was raised out in Vega, graduated from high school there, went down to Tech, and got my degree, then came back up to the Panhandle and started teaching history and political science and coaching football. It was a great life, and I spent 20 years in Smith County, Hereford, coaching the Whitefaces, or helping coach the Whitefaces. Then when I retired, I came to Amarillo to live. I've lived here for about not quite 20 years. So I have lived in 5 of the 6 counties of District 86. And some of the things that my concerns that caused me to decide to run for office were that even though we have pretty much full employment in Amarillo, 70% of the children who go to Amarillo Independent School Districts qualify for free or reduced lunch. In Hereford, it's close to 90%. So we're not having equal justice for all up here. And we need to work real hard on that. We need better jobs that pay better with better benefits for all of us. when we pledged to the flag, we pledged to a country that was one nation, under God, indivisible. That means it can't be divided. We're all one, with liberty and justice for all. Liberty, justice for all. There's no wiggle room there. So we have to work to make sure that that promise is fulfilled to all the people in our district. In addition, I am concerned that the government in Austin is not giving us a fair shot. We're a long ways from there. I have been going to Austin quarterly for the last 3 years, and it's 500 miles all the way. It's a long way there. But we must fight for our services to be given to us from Austin. And one way to do that is have strong representatives who believe that the people should be served by the government in Austin, not ruled. We have lost a lot of our local control for our school districts, our city councils, our county commissioners. When a child in our schools when they decide whether he's going to pass or fail, he has to take a test that comes all the way from Austin. The teacher who has taught that child every day of the school year doesn't make out his pass-fail test. And that needs to change. Thank you.
All right. So the next race we'll move on to is in Potter County. It is the race for Justice of the Peace. And I believe we have both candidates with us today. So the first candidate is Republican Robert Taylor.
My name is Robert Taylor, and I'm a candidate for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2, which is East Amarillo, on a Republican ticket. I was raised here in Amarillo most of my life. My dad passed away when I was 8, and my uncle was in the military here at the Air Force Base. So my mother moved us from Wisconsin to here, and been here ever since. Went to Whittier, Travis, Polladura. After I graduated from Polladura, went into the military in 1973. Spent most of my time in Germany, 43 months. Vietnam, they quit sending troops to it, so I was fortunate to spend it all in a nice country. I've been, after military, I've spent spent 5 years in the lawn service business, but in between that, I spent 35 years in law enforcement here in town. I started out at the Amarillo Police Department in 1978. 85, I left for the lawn service. Then I did a stint of 3 days in the Randall County Reserves. Potter County called me up and said, we'll pay you for doing that. So I went to Potter County under Jimmy Don Boydston. And after that, I went when Shoemake came in, I left. I went to the airport for a year, and currently, for the last 14 years, been at Amarillo College Police Department. I also work part-time at Tanglewood Police Department, usually on the weekends, some more times on a boat. So I'm what they call Marine certified with that police department. Over the last few months, I've spent about 40 hours in the other JP courts, seeing how the operation goes. I've been involved watching arraignments, evictions, and riding with the constables as they serve the papers that come out of that justice court. Been involved in the community with Quahati dancers. I was a senior assistant head chief in the 70s, Eagle Scout. I started the Shop with a Cop program here in Amarillo 22 years ago, still doing it. Hopefully this year will be somebody be taking the reins of that. Also assist the North Heights senior citizens Thanksgiving, Make-A-Wish chili cook-off, chamber cook-offs. I like to cook, and I want to serve Potter County as your next Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2. I'm Robert Taylor, and I appreciate your vote.
Okay, so our next candidate in that race is Claudia Griego. And while she's coming up here, I'll remind you, if you have any questions, raise your hand, and this guy will get you a card for any of the candidates.
Hello, everybody. I'm Claudia Griego, and I am running as a Democrat for Potter County Justice of the Peace Precinct 2. I was born and raised in Amarillo, lived my whole lifetime in Precinct 2. I went to Oakdale, Bowie, and Caprock. I've been married for 31 years. I've got 3 natural children and 3 stepchildren and lots of grandbabies. I've worked for Baysden Belbon for the last 21 years, and before that I was a supervisor at Levi Strauss. During the time that I've worked at Baysden, I have had the opportunity to familiarize myself very extensively with the court systems. I've worked closely with law enforcement, with prosecutors from both counties, from JP courts, municipal courts, all the way up to district courts. I'm very familiar with the process of the way the court system works. And since announcing, I have put in hours with JP courts, learning a little bit more of the particulars of their processes as far as eviction courts and just various job things. I am so sorry, I'm a nervous wreck. I will get better at this, I promise. Public speaking is not my forte, but I feel that I am best qualified. I feel that I can best relate to the people of my community. I know I've got some good strides I'll have to keep up with. We've got some wonderful people in JP2 doing some wonderful things for our area. We've got Constable Estrada, we've got Commissioner Mercy Murguia that are just doing some wonderful things for that area. We've got lots of growth, really exciting things going on in that area. We've got just so much momentum moving forward, and I want to be part of helping our community be more inclusive, be more productive. I'm just real excited about getting in there and doing everything that I can to help the people of that community. One thing that I am concerned about is the fact that I'm not real sure when this happened, but I believe it happened during this last couple of terms there in that office, where JP2 is no longer hearing their truancies from their schools. I'm not sure if that's something that I agree with. I don't think that another JP can necessarily relate to the children of our community in the same way that we can. I think education is extremely important, and I want to do what I can to help our kids understand the importance of education and elevating themselves. I want to see everybody in our community be successful, and I'm thrilled to death to have a possible opportunity to help them with that. Again, my name is Claudia Griego, and like I said, I'm not great at this, but I promise to get better. If you have any questions, please look for me, and I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you guys.
Okay, so our next race, we're going to flip back over Randall County. It's for the constable position for the unexpired term, and we have one of the candidates with us today. So please welcome Richard Beals.
Good evening. My name is Richard Beals. I'm a candidate for Randall County Constable in Precinct 1, and just want to take a moment to thank thank y'all for allowing me to be here. Thank you, Tom. And it was an honor back on July 11th to be sworn in as the Constable in Randall County, Precinct 1. Filling an unexpired term, I believe is the right term. My predecessor left May the 15th, so I've filled that role since then. Tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Austin originally. Lived all over the different parts of the state growing up. Been in Randall County for the last 17 years. A little over, about almost 14 of that at the Randall County Sheriff's Office. I was a warrant deputy primarily there. If you don't know what that is, you go out and look for wanted people and either bring them to jail or talk to them on the phone, get them to turn themselves in, take care of their warrants. So I did that for a little over 12 years at the Sheriff's Office, and I was on patrol and did a little bit of court security other than that. Quite a bit of time at the Sheriff's Office. I was in the Honor Guard there. That was a privilege. We went out and worked with veterans on different holidays and things like that. Was also an FTO and taught in the citizen and student academies. And so it was a great privilege being part of the Sheriff's Office there, and I really enjoyed it. It was encouraged by the Sheriff, Joel Richardson, to pursue the Constable's office, and have really enjoyed that opportunity. You may be wondering, what exactly does a constable do? Primarily, it's serve civil papers, court security, and warrants. That's basically what a constable does. So I look forward to serving our community in that role. I am active in the community, part of the Canyon Noon Lions Club. I'm in the Happy Volunteer Fire Department. Lived in Happy since '05, just the Randall County part. There's one little small part that's in Randall there. So that's a little bit about me. Would like to acknowledge my wonderful wife and my son in the back there. They came with me tonight, so I appreciate their support. And basically, that's me. I'm Richard Beals, and I would appreciate your vote on November the 6th. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to ask any of the unopposed candidates running for office in Potter, Randall County, to please come up here and introduce themselves, and we'll give you a minute apiece. So if anybody would like to come up here. Potter or Randall County, either county. We have a few in the audience, I know, so.
Hello, I'm Angie Parker, and I'm running for the Randall County Treasurer. I'm unopposed, but I have been the Assistant Treasurer for the last 7.5 years, about 7.5. And before that, I was in the Auditor's Office for 4.5 years, and I've gained lots of experience with the software that we use and just the workings of the county, and we're in really good shape now, and I just hope to continue doing that and just do better and better. Our investments are doing really well these days, and just I've had a very good teacher. Glenna Canada has been the treasurer for like 13, 14 years, I guess, and 15 years. She's done a great job, and I hope to follow in her footsteps, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
So do we have any other unopposed candidates who'd like to come up here? They're calling out Susan Allen, so.
Because I can talk really loud.
All right, perfect.
But my name is Susan Allen, and I am running for the Randall County Clerk. I actually did that. I want to thank everybody through the primaries for all the support. I'm actually got blessed to go on board with the Randall County Clerk's Office as the Chief Deputy, and I do have a lot to learn. Those girls really, really work hard. I look forward to taking office in January, and I can't wait to serve the citizens of Randall County. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss any races or any candidates? Okay. Perfect. We also want to remind you that for Randall County voters, for some Randall County voters, there is a $197 million bond issue on the ballot in November for the Canyon Independent School District for campus improvements and things like that. And so we asked speakers representing the sides on that issue to be here tonight, and they're not. So we encourage you to get informed on that and make a wise choice. So, Mr. Green has some information on it. Okay.
Just want to fill in a few details on this. As Thomas pointed out, it's about a $200 million bond project. Some of the things that are being funded in this are 2 new elementary schools, 1 new high school. They're going to expand the Randall West High School and convert Randall East back to a middle school. They also plan to renovate 4 of the other schools and to renovate Kimbrough Stadium. Now, that doesn't account for all of the $200 million, but it kind of covers most of it. So that gives you an idea of what you'll be voting on if you're a Canyon ISD voter.
Thank you. All right, so, Ms. Danny, you have a question?
Yeah, you have an opportunity to find any numbers on what you're showing with the website. Does not have a breakdown of the unit cost. And my question is, the Kimbrough Stadium, that one's a lot of people put on the mindset.
So the question is, you haven't found any costs on each specific project and a specific cost on the Kimbrough project?
No, I have not also not seen any breakdowns on it. There are a few items that they've addressed specifically on the Kimbrough Stadium issue as far as bathroom upgrades and things of that nature, but very few specifics.
All right, so we're going to take questions now. If you have questions, please contact this guy right here. Raise your hand. He'll get you a card for any of the races. We're going to make sure every candidate in an opposed race has at least one question. So even the constables, we're going to have some good ones. And also for the candidates, we have a yard sign up here that we're asking all of the candidates in attendance to sign. So if you haven't done that, come up here and see us, and let's get that done. So we're going to take about 10 minutes to collect the questions, get everything ready to go, and then we'll go ahead and start. So, all right. Sir, we got a 10-minute break.